Hello and welcome back to TVP World's World Talks, where every word matters, with me, Anna Kalczyńska. Good morning. 2 weeks of an offensive and it's been over. Bashar al-Assad's regime is now history, with the dictator having fled to Moscow and with Syrians cheering on the streets, hoping for a new start. As much as experts are surprised how fast the Assad regime fell, they are skeptical as to the peaceful transformation on the country now awaits. And joining me now to talk about the possible scenarios is Marcin Krzyżanowski, Middle East expert from Jagiellonian University, Kraków. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What is next for the Syria and the region itself?
First of all, there is necessary to establish a new master plan for Syria, as the conflict since approximately 4 years ago became a stalemate. Now everything has changed on the ground. Of course, we are still far away from the end of the civil war, as still we are witnessing ongoing fights between the Turkish-backed so-called Syrian National Army and dominated by Kurds Syrian Defensive Force. Meanwhile, there are some clashes between mentioned Syrian National Army and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which now is a leader of the rebel force and most prominent military force in Syria. There are still Russians in Khmeim and Tartus air and naval base, and still some Alawi and Druze and other local militias still trying to keep semi-independence of their position. And last but not least, are remnants from Islamic State, which is still active, weak, but still danger. And at the moment, the leaders of HDS are working to consolidation the various militias under their umbrella into a how they called it, Salvation National Unity Government of Syria. At the moment, there are reports that Abu Muhammad Julani, the chief of HDS, will try to pose himself as the legal successor of the Bashar al-Assad's government, but details remain sketchy.
Exactly. So Tahrir al-Sham, is this group, according to you, sustainable enough to form a government? And can Abu Muhammad al-Julani turn toward pragmatism?
I think there is a chance for that. The HDS showed in Idlib that they are able to govern a semi-independent or quasi-state. Of course, the situation in Idlib was much easier as the semi-independent state was much smaller than whole Syria. It was easier to govern it. It was easier to control it, and there was no armed opposition against HDS in Idlib since few years before. Now they have to face the catastrophic situation, economical situation, local independent militia challenging their rule, and international pressure. However, at the moment we have no signals about ethnic cleansing or any acts against minorities. And Julani many times distanced himself from his previous interviews, previous ideas to establish a kind of Islamic caliphate in Syria with no laws for religious minorities. He stated that he changed his attitude and will try to to create inclusive government. But the issue is not only Giuliani himself, but also his lieutenants and supporters. If he will implement again that too soft, let's call that too soft for the radical jihadist, he could face a mutiny within his own ranks.
An important factor to Europeans are, of course, expected refugees. Some exiled Syrians write now on their social media, "I am no longer a refugee Syrian, I am just a Syrian now." So is it true that the Syrians are now coming back to their country, or to the opposite? Should we expect a new wave of refugee crisis?
I think we shouldn't expect a new big wave of refugees or refugee crisis with a scale as we witnessed in 2015. Many Syrians, especially from Lebanon and Turkey, are coming back home. Those who are which are in Europe will declare, many of them declared that they will come, but they are still waiting for the stabilization of the current situation. As we mentioned, we don't know if Giuliani will be able to deliver his promise of security and inclusiveness.
And what impact will this situation have on Russia and the war in Ukraine?
Definitely, the situation is not in Russia's favor. Their military bases in Hmeim and Tartus are in danger. At the moment, there are ongoing negotiation with HTS and Russian and other militia about the status of the bases. The base is very important for Russian possibilities to project the force into the Africa. And the possible evacuation of the base is very problematic, as Turkey closed the Bosphor and the Dardanelles for military ships. So to come back to Russia, those ships stationed in Tartus needed to go to Baltic Sea, which is quite far away. Besides of that, there is necessary to evacuate few thousand, approximately 3,000 up to 4,000 of soldiers, and a lot of equipment. It is impossible to do in a short time, especially if we consider that Russia is, let's say, busy in Ukraine. Yet Giuliani didn't mention that he would like to expel Russians. So there is a chance that Giuliani, for example, will trade the Russian presence in Syria for international recognition.
All right, so we know Syria is strategically a very important country for the region, but not only. There are many international powers, foreign powers, foreign actors involved. So who can you consider as a winner in this puzzle?
It's hard to indicate a winner, but it's much easier to indicate the biggest loser. Of course, the biggest loser, except Bashar al-Assad himself, is Iran. Assad's government was a very important part of provided by Iran a chain of supplies leading from Iran to Lebanon and Hezbollah. Now there is a huge gap in this route. Another loser might be, of course, Israel. At the moment, we don't know what stance HTS will present toward Israel, but we can be quite sure it will not be a friendly one. Assad was more stable and predictable ruler. Now, with a new situation, the high level of uncertainty is present and will stay with us for long.
All right, Marcin Krzyżanowski, thank you very much for your insights and comments on the evolvement of situation in Syria. Thank you very much once again for being with us.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
And thank you for watching. It was World Talks with me, Anna Kalczyńska. Coming up next is the news presented by Diana Skaya. So stay close.